Hi, I'm Christian. Welcome back to another On the Road video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com. Stop. Before beginning any repair, always be sure to disconnect the power to the appliance. It is also recommended to test the outlet for proper voltage. Today we're working on a Whirlpool over-the-range microwave. The customer's complaint is that the unit will not heat and it's giving off a loud humming noise. So we've already diagnosed that the actual Magnetron is defective on the unit. Whenever you replace the Magnetron, you replace the high voltage diode also. So we're going to be doing that repair today. The tools you will need to complete this repair are a T20 driver, a Phillips screwdriver, and a pair of needle nose pliers. To begin the repair, we first must remove the grill. There are two number 2 Phillips screws that hold the grill in at the left and right sides. We're going to be removing them both. Once the screws have been removed, we can go ahead and lift out and up on the grill and set it aside. Next, we need to remove the wrap. To do so, originally this is going to be installed above a range. It does have to be uninstalled from that position and set down in a workable position so you can get to all the screws. So to begin, we're going to be removing the 9 screws on the very back. And these screws are all number 2 Phillips. We can now remove the screws on the top, and there are several. We're going to begin by removing the ones that hold the actual blower fan bracket on, and there's 2 on this one. Once the 2 screws have been removed, we can lift up on the top side of the bracket here, and then slide it out from the 2 clips in the back. We'll set this aside. Be careful when you're handling any metal here. Some of the metal is very sharp. So once all the screws have been removed from the back and the top of the appliance, there were several screws underneath the actual microwave that actually secure the bottom of the wrap on the microwave. So we're gonna return it to the front position and then flip it over on its back. We're now going to remove the 8 Phillips screws that secure the wrap on the bottom. They go down the left side and the right side. So it's just the 4 on the side. So once all the screws have been removed, we can now set the microwave in the upright position so we can remove the wrap. Now that the appliance is in the upright position, to finish removing the wrap, we're going to go on each side and pull out from the back and then push out, or just pull out, I should say, from the front. There are some clips on each side that the front of the wrap actually gets tucked into the actual chassis. Just like that. Then we can go ahead and lift up on the wrap while fishing the actual power cord here through the opening. So be careful when you do so. Like I said, some of the metal is pretty sharp. So once that's fished through, we'll grab the wrap and then set the wrap aside. Now that the wrap's been removed, the first thing before diagnosing or touching any component, we want to make sure that the actual capacitor has been discharged. To discharge the capacitor, we're going to use some sort of insulated screwdriver, and we're going to go across all 3 terminals and touch the ground or grounding component, just like this sheet metal here. Make sure we rub them pretty well. And sometimes if they're holding a charge, it'll spark here when you touch the screwdriver to the terminals and the ground. So now that it's been fully discharged, it's now safe to work on the microwave. Now that we've discharged the capacitor, we can now remove the actual magnetron here. To do so, there are several steps in removing the magnetron. The first step is to remove the ground screw that holds the ground wire from the power cord in place. And that is a number 2 Phillips screw. We'll remove the screw and then pull out the actual power cord from the locking slot here and then just let it rest freely. So once that's been removed, we do have to remove this piece of venting here. To do so, we're going to come on the back side and remove the 2 number 2 Phillips screws that secure the actual venting to the rear of the chassis. And then there was 1 screw here inside the chassis that we have to remove, and that is the number 2 Phillips also. So once those 3 screws have been removed, we can now angle out this venting. It's very flexible. We're just gonna flex it out of place here and remove it completely. We'll set it aside. Once that's been removed, we're gonna remove the 2 number 2 Phillips screws that secure the actual Magnetron TCO in place. And these are machine thread screws. Make sure that you take note. We'll set them aside and just let the thermostat hang here freely. Now we can disconnect the 2 power wires that go to the actual Magnetron. They each have a locking tab in. So we're gonna push in the locking tab and then pull out on the actual wire. We'll do that for both of them. Using a T20 driver, we're going to remove the 4 T20 screws that secure the Magnetron in place. Once the last screw has been removed, we can pull up on the actual Magnetron and set it aside. Now that we have our Magnetron, let's install it. So to begin the installation of the Magnetron, we're going to line up the screw holes and make sure the wire terminals for the Magnetron face towards the inside of the microwave. Once they're lined up, we'll go ahead and re-secure the Magnetron with the 4 T20 screws we removed earlier. Once the 4 screws have been secured, we can now reattach the 2 wires that go to the Magnetron. We're just going to line them up and push them straight on. And we'll do the same for the other side. Just like that. Now we can reinstall the Magnetron TCO on the actual Magnetron using the 2 number 2 Phillips screws we removed earlier. Now remember, these are the machine threaded screws. Before tightening the first one all the way, I am going to at least start on the second one.
Pull your head out after you're ready.
We can now reinstall the venting that goes behind the Magnetron here. So this vent actually cools the actual Magnetron down using the blower motor, and that's why this venting is in the place it's at. So remember, the plastic is very flexible on the actual venting, so we can manipulate it pretty easy. So once the venting is in its proper location, we can now re-secure the venting with the 3 Phillips screws we removed earlier. One goes inside, and then the other 2 go on the rear of the appliance. We can now re-secure the power cord and the ground screw with the ground strap. The next step is to replace the diode. We're going to first push the diode terminal onto the actual capacitor. It's a spade terminal, so you just push it directly on. Once the diode's been installed onto the capacitor, we can now re-secure the grounding screw with the diode. Once that's been replaced, we can now replace the actual access panel or the sub panel. We're gonna line up the sub panel here and then re-secure the sub panel with the 2 number 2 Phillips screws we removed earlier. The next step is to reinstall the wrap. We're going to fish the actual power cord through the opening for the blower motor. We're just going to put it through and put the shell on the unit here. And once we're trying to line up the actual shell, there are tabs inside the actual sides on the left and right side that get tucked in to the control panel area and then the left chassis of the unit. So we're just tugging them in before we install the screws. Once they are fully seated, if you pull on the shell, you won't be able to pull that part out, and it won't be loose, and it'll be nice and flush. So just like that. So now we'll go ahead and turn the unit around and start installing the screws. Next, we can install the 9 number 2 Phillips screws on the rear of the appliance. Once the 9 screws have been fastened, we can now reinstall the cover for the actual blower motor. So we're just gonna put these 2 tabs inside the actual slots, and then we're gonna pivot the back side towards the top of the wrap. And then we can secure the top side with the 2 number 2 Phillips screws that we removed earlier. The next step is to secure the top of the actual wrap with the 6 beveled screws, and these are number 2 Phillips as well. So they're going to be the longer beveled screws, and these go across the top. Next step is to gain access to the actual bottom of the appliance so we can secure the actual bottom of the wrap to the bottom of the appliance or the chassis. Now we can install the 8 remaining screws on the bottom of the actual appliance. There's going to be 4 on the left side and 4 on the right side, and they are all number 2 Phillips. Now we can tip the appliance upright and install the grill. We're going to line up the grill. Once the grill's been lined up, we can go ahead and secure the grill with the 2 number 2 Phillips screws we removed earlier. Now with the grill installed, this will complete your repair. Thank you for watching another quality in-home repair video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com.